Always check your children's Halloween candy. Always. I'm not saying this to fear monger. To tell you the truth, I realized that the most of the candy handed out on the holiday is likely purchased at Walmart the day before and shoved into a plastic pumpkin-shaped bowl. You probably have realized that most sane people don't poison candy, or put glass in it, or whatever cautionary urban legend you've heard. The only guy that do that, he did this to his own son. Those neighbors of yours, don't treat them like criminals. They are just trying innocently to give those kiddos some sweets. This warning is regarded as a phenomenon that no apparent again. What does it mean? No one is really sure where it comes from. The candy in question isn't even so. You can't purchase it at even stores without looking up online with the results. No results. The candy is a formulated phenomenon, appears to be that of a cinnamon jawbreaker, not to be confused with automatic Fireball brand or any similar sweet. It may resemble a red-tinted gumball or a red lollipop with no stick. The point being, it's rather generic in appearance, which it makes it tricky to spot the real deal. The candy is sometimes branded under HH Sweets Company, or corporation that doesn't exist, at least not one registered by any agency since 1999. If you search the internet, you might find some HH Sweets business, but I assure you, they aren't the real deal. A namesake coincidence. If the label carries the HH name on it, underneath the tagline will read something to the effect of hot as hell, sweet as heaven. Not all the candies support branding, but it certainly helps to spot it. This is why I advise you, or yourself or your kids, with unmarked red candy, the safest bet is to throw this sucker away. Documentation of the phenomenon only dates back to 2007. But there is a possibility that gone far longer. As of this recording, a known 9 people have investigated the candy, 4 of which being children under the age of 18. Each case has happened on October 31st, with the most cases occurring in 2016, with a total of 3 victims. The only clues to the candy's appearance and the branding is through the eyes of the witnesses and the subsequent investigations of any nearby and opened candy wrappers. Each of the victims' corpses, aside from the heads, remain untouched. The heads, however, are why the things get strange. Each of these heads are completely burnt, like used as a match. That would make an identification to the victims for troublesome, except for the strange fact that the fingerprint analysis has lent itself fiddling onto the nature of these deaths, considering the hands of the deceased or were completely intact. None of the victims were related in any way, with the only exception being of a father and his 9-year-old daughter, Andy and Mary Kay Winfield from Lexington, Virginia. All of this share no relation other than the aforementioned candy. The eyewitnesses' report from the Brevard, North Carolina, documented a full story behind the mysterious death of a 12-year-old boy, Shane Davis, who died on Halloween of 2009. I was leaving the pharmacy around 8 when it happened. He, Davis, was walking down the block in a zombie costume. I didn't even notice him at first because it was dark, and the costume was dark. But then there was this flash of orange light, like if someone lighted a candle. I turned around, and this heat wave hit me in the face. And the smell. Oh God, the smell. It smelled like cooked meat. And his head was on fire. And there were people screaming. But there was nothing we could do. He only screamed for a moment before he hit the pavement. I never unsee it. There was rumors that it was a hex from a witch or something. I'm not a superstitious man, but when you see something like that, superstitions doesn't mean too far off, you know? Similar reports were documented for many other victims. Shortly after listening, they investigate just into candy. The victim's head would burst into flames, and would soon thereafter the victim would succumb to the injury and die. Many rumors and theories have since popped around surrounding the deaths and candy, mainly include witches, spells, and some carved significant following the beyond regional folklore. One of the popular rumors cites that the deaths as a result of the 1782 execution of Henry Heinsohn Cassidy, or H. Cassidy, a candy maker from Alnach, Virginia. The site of the documented death from 2007, Cassidy was a local candy maker, was placed on trial after the disappearances of 2 young girls from the neighboring town. Despite having no apparent motive for abducting 2 young girls, the candy maker was a reasonable suspect, having access to sweets and alluring children. Following a local investigation, where one of the girls' bodies was discovered with a candy in her pocket, Cassidy was charged of the murders and sentenced to death. Children from the town who once loved the sweets made by the candy maker began calling Cassidy the Witch of Onok, making him one of the earliest male witches of legend. After being found guilty in the hasty of trial, Cassidy was sentenced to death by a molten metal, a process considered barbaric, except for the case accused with which Cassidy also swore his innocence until his death, had been molten metal ball dropped onto his throat. While a quick death, it was certainly not painless. The townsfolk remarked that justice was served on that day, and the body was buried in a shallow grave. Given that Andy and Mary Kay Winfield were also from Virginia, many speculated that the spirit of Cassidy returned to punish those responsible for his death, using his signature candy as a way to torment the descendants of his accusers. The name, too, H. Cassidy, would also explain the name on the wrapper, H. Sweets. Another popular theory is usually referred as the Jack-o'-lantern story. Based on the Irish myth, the story goes like a man, who is known as Stingy Jack, tricked the devil on multiple occasions, resulting in his banishment from hell, as well as heaven. He was a trickster at heart. The man forced to roam earth until it lit coal with the turnip. He had been using it ever since as his light is an eternal path. The story clearly rooted the Halloween tradition of carving jack-o'-lanterns had been used to explain the candy too. Stingy Jack, as he referred to, seeks out the soul to join him his eternal punishment. The candy, which burns the heads of the costumes, it turns them into somewhat crude jack-o'-lantern. This would explain the fiery demise of the victims, when its connection and celebration of Halloween. The conjunction with Stingy Jack is narrative. Those who are conclude with the candy as at work of devil himself, tormenting suspecting holiday celebrators with death merely for the fun of it. A rather sick trick, yes, but then again, mischief was a commonplace in the celebration of Halloween. As for this fury, the HHH label would stand for itself as Hell's Hottest, or some variation of Hell's Alteration. Despite these various backstories of the candy, there is far more grounded explanation that may have subscribed to. Rather than reading into the HHH Sweets mythology, some conclude that HH Sweets is precisely what claims to be the candy company. The motive for committing these crimes is, at large, still a mystery. But the fury then cuts out to claims of ghosts and devils, suggesting that a selected few sickos have the willpower to conjure up the sweets with the intent to kill. At the end, no one in the fury is correct. At least one could be confirmed by traditional means. A candy, that is, for a lack of better terms, supernatural, can only be explained by the supernatural, making it extremely difficult to verify any information regarding it. If you wish to avoid the grisly results of the candy, it is advised to always check your children's Halloween candy. Better yet, avoid the trick-or-treat tradition altogether. Or if you're highly concerned, perhaps it would be best to skip Halloween altogether. Well, that was a Halloween creepypasta called Always Check the Candy. A creepypasta written by MakRalston. I think that's how you pronounce it. My final thoughts on the story. This is actually a pretty good creepypasta involving Halloween. This is a very good advice for people to always check the candy, which when it comes to Halloween, if you have kids and they have a bunch of candy they want to eat, it's always best to check their candy first, because some people may think the candy looks good and all that, But when they open up, sometimes you may find some very suspicious and very messed up things. Like, for example, someone could put a razor inside the bar. Someone could be, what was it? Oh, yeah. Someone could be, putting some needles in there. Someone could have poisoned the candy or something much worse. This is a really great creepypasta involving Halloween candy. I mean, I recommend you guys do the same. Always check the candy if you go trick-or-treating. I mean, I'm too old to trick-or-treat, and I know a couple people who have been on this channel for a long time, stop trick-or-treating at some point. So I could definitely say right now that this story definitely does portray a very good life lesson, is to always check the candy, because you never know, what could be inside the candy. So, yeah, I'm not saying everybody does this, but this is a very good warning to those who haven't, heard about this story. I recommend you check it out. It's on the regular Creepypasta Wiki, and I recommend you guys check out the story if you haven't. So, anyways, with that being the case, that being said, I'm going to sit here and just say that this is, while it's still a good story, I definitely have to say that the grammar is really good, and this is actually pretty good theories as to why that's the case. I mean, it actually sounds pretty amazing. Like, I mean, I can honestly see this being the case in that, so I definitely have to say it's honestly still a pretty good story for what it is. So, yeah. Anyways, I guess with that being the case, that being said, I'm going to sit here and just say that this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story is a 10 out of 10. I really do like this story, and I really do appreciate the good grammar, sentence structuring. It does have a good storyline and all that, so I definitely gotta say it's a really well-made story. It's definitely a really great story. It's definitely well made. I recommend those to check it out if you haven't, because, yeah, it's a pretty well-made story for what this one is, and it definitely does have a really good explanation to, what this story is. So, anyways, I guess with that being the case, that being said, yeah, you guys can go check this out if you haven't. Feel free to do so. It's pretty good. And yeah, I also recommend you guys to check out this story. Yeah, I will be doing more of these, Halloween creepypastas on my channel. I don't know why I didn't do them last year, but for some reason I didn't. So I'm definitely going to say it's a good story. I recommend it. And yeah, with that being said, what did you guys personally think of this story? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better. Feel free to leave me what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're new to my channel, like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.